Alright, another episode of The Mandalorian. This time it's called The Believer. Believer in what? I don't know. Grogu? The Force? Something. You ever notice Mandalorian when you say it sounds like, I don't know, a man driving a DeLorean? But anyway, this one, the battles with Stormtroopers in this episode was to a minimum, but it wasn't as bad as it was in the previous one, where there's just too much of Stormtroopers just dropping like flies and unable to shoot straight and all that. I know it's the joke, but it gets to the point where it almost pushes you out of the story because it's just too stupid. Because, you know, your villains have to have some amount of ability in order to be a credible threat, so that your hero seems all that much more impressive. But when the villains are just bungling idiots, it's, you know, you could just sleepwalk through it. But anyway, it was a little better on this one. And the other villains were these pirates that attack Mando, and he dispatches them. And it's all very cool. It's this sort of battle on this, truck that they're doing. Now, the thing about the truck is, I guess it's hard times for the Empire, and they can't afford to be using, like, shuttles or whatnot to deliver supplies to their base. So they could avoid these pirates that are attacking them on the way through this, the jungle or wooded area of it all. Don't know. I guess the supplies are limited, and that's the only explanation you come up with as to why they would do that. And despite all of that, they're using these trucks apparently in this convoy. Only one truck survived. The rest of them got blown up. There's some interesting scenes where it kind of looks like a movie about Vietnam with the explosions and whatnot in the jungled areas, and then instead of helicopters flying around, it's TIE fighters. So it's all cool. But anyway, of course, little baby Yoda, now Grogu, is in the hands of what's left of the Empire. And so, of course, Mandalorian wants him back. Assembles his team of Boba Fett, Fennec, and Cara Dune. And then they need one more member, and so they bring back Bill Burr. Now, in last season, the episode that Bill Burr was in was sort of this heist episode. A lot of people praised it and liked it, and I think it was a lot of it because of the affection of Bill Burr. I thought it was one of the weakest episodes of the season. I just thought, it kind of fell flat on me. But this one, I think Bill Burr was much more impressive in this version of it. And, there's some interesting scenes here and there with him. There's some cool stuff where he's, on a work detail and while he's a prisoner, and how he gets taken in. Mando needs somebody who was once in the Empire, and he was, and someone who can access a terminal, in the hopes that they could locate the Moff Gideon's cruiser. And yeah, it's just as simple as that. So they got to infiltrate it. They get in. They got to disguise themselves as the stormtroopers who are truck drivers. So truck driver stormtroopers have their own. Every stormtrooper has their own distinctive armor, which apparently isn't any good. Because there's even a scene where Mando, so he has to go into disguise as a stormtrooper, and uses a stormtrooper helmet to hide his face, which ultimately ends up not working out so great. But he's being attacked by those pirates, and at first he kind of braces himself for their attack, but the armor he's wearing is pretty useless. And once the pirate hits at him, he's like, oh, it's like he didn't expect it, because he doesn't have the super duper armor of his Mandalorian stuff. And so it just goes to show that stormtrooper armor is just worthless crap. Boy, it was a lot of corners being cut in the military budget of the Empire. Probably some friend of the Palpatine's that got the bid to develop stormtrooper armor. It's cheap crap. But anyway, so yeah, and I guess even Stormtrooper plumbers have specific armor for themselves. So him and Burr are in that, and then of course, ultimately, Burr recognizes one of the officers. So he says, "Oh man, he'll see me. I can't do it." And so Mando goes instead. If that's the case, all he needed from Bill Burr was the flash drive. I guess, of course, Bill Burr knew where to go. That there would be a terminal in the mess hall. So he kind of knew his way around a Imperial base. So yeah, I guess he's still necessary. But so Mando goes in there, but the thing is that you need to let your face get scanned. Now, I would have thought this meant that it had to scan your face to make sure that you're authorized to have access, or that you're a soldier or what have you. And that Burr at least had been, so there would be perhaps some recognition on the computer's part of him, but not in the case of Mando. But apparently, it just scans the face to, I don't know, make sure it's not a droid. I don't. It's pretty pathetic security protocol. It's just any idiot can walk up there and get their face scanned and find out what the location of an Imperial battleship is. I mean, so yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the thinking was there, but the whole thing of it is all Pedro Pascal takes off the helmet and it's Pedro Pascal, and at this point. He's seen not only by Burr, of course, but also by the Imperial officer there that they engage with. Now, he says, "Oh my God, he violated his oath and stuff," but he's since gained new knowledge that he didn't know about Mandalorians. He's been in this sort of offshoot zealot sect that holds true to old customs of the Mandalorians, whereas the rest of them have long since moved away from that. So it's like when Boca Raton, she says, "Yeah, we don't do that anymore." And of course, Boba Fett was this whole other story now, and he's actually a clone of a Mandalorian. So the idea, they kind of covered that in it, but it's also not just that. It's because he's willing to do anything for Grogu. Yes. Because he loves the little guy. And so this is how far he's willing to go to get him back and save him and all that. And so that's what that's all about. And so, it works within that. Now, we learned that the reason Bill Burr was nervous about being seen by this officer was not because of the guy who might recognize him, which he ultimately doesn't, but because he particularly hated this guy, and he ends up killing him, despite Mando staring at him like, "No, don't do it." So they end up in a shootout, which complicated things far beyond what they needed. But fortunately, Fennec and Kara they're sniper girls on the edge, so they're able to give them cover as they make good their escape. And hey, you know what? It all works out. And then, of course, Slave 1 shows up, and there you go. Boba Fett managed to polish his armor and get a new paint job. I can't say the same for his ship, but maybe he'll get to that later. But he took the time to paint his armor as they're going on this mission. Now, the thing about Boba Fett is, like, why is he being such a good guy and all of this? I'm still holding out that at the point he'll turn on them all at some point. Because one of the questions was he saw the cruiser as it was leaving in the previous episode, and they didn't open fire on his ship, which they could have. They could have taken him out just as easily took out Mando's ship. So, if perhaps, he's one of theirs, and then whatever the deal would be that says, well, they offered me a better deal or something like that, and he'll betray them. And it goes to show that Boba Fett is still very much a villain. I think that was one of the reasons in thinking of when you're going to do a Mandalorian series and says, hey, why can't it just be a Boba Fett series? But they wanted a good guy, and in some aspects, maybe Mando's too good of a guy. He's supposed to be this, rough bounty hunter type dude, similar to Boba Fett, but ultimately with a heart of gold. I mean, you could have had a more complex story of some kind of, tale of redemption on the part of Boba Fett, and that, well, he's learned a lot since those days, and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, they decided to go with another character who's just, a better guy. But in keeping with Boba Fett's character and whatnot, from what we've seen, it would stand to reason that there would be some of that. But possibly a lot of years have gone by. He's a much older man, and but we just don't have those details. And maybe there'll be, some of that. They've announced all these other Star Wars shows. Who knows what they'll detail there. But anyway, that's the elements he still could turn, But anyway, so there they are. And the other thing that I thought, he sends a message to Moff Gideon, kind of saying, "I'm coming for you," Well, that's not too smart, because now Moff Gideon knows you're coming and you know where he is, and well, he might change. See him plans the other way. So unless, of course, the message is sent, he's already there, and we're not knowing what point of time it is, and when the next episode he's already, I don't know, infiltrated the ship or something. But I doubt it. And it's just to state the obvious. You have no idea what that child means to me, or something like that, and I'm like, well, you already demonstrated that through his actions, which is a much better way of doing that. He's willing to sacrifice his deeply held cultural beliefs in the service of rescuing what is now, for all intents and purposes, his son. So it wasn't really necessary to have that so that Moff Gideon can look intimidated at the hologram of Mando, So but all in all, a good romp of adventure and whatnot. But hopefully, maybe season 3 will actually get an in-depth story of the Mandalorian himself. So there weren't any guest stars per se this time around. I mean, you had your extra new characters that they introduced, and Cara Dune, possibly. Well, not possibly. Apparently, she's going to be in the Rangers series that they've announced. So, and we'll see what that does. But hopefully, they don't force her to bend the knee, as apparently rumors that they want Gina Carano to apologize. I mean, no one else has apologized for their crazy crap. And she didn't really do anything. So, if something like that, and if they fire her, you're going to have to seriously consider canceling D+, because there's only so much of this crap one can take, But anyway, so there you go. A flawed but fun episode of Mandalorian, and that's pretty much the case of Mandalorian. And I don't really see it getting any better. It might. That's possible. There could be some little shining moments here and there. But I think this is pretty much how the ride will be. And we'll see what the other shows can do in due time. Unless something really nasty like firing Gina Carano happens, or forcing her to apologize. Then, well, that might just be it for me with all this. Anyway, there you go, Mandalorian. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.